sir କରିନି କରିଦେବି sir କରିପାରିବା next ପଢୁଥିଲା ଲାଇଭ ତ ଲାଇଭ okay good morning let's discuss on today's development starting with the topic. So this is regarding the policy regarding the differently abled or Divyangas because they constitute a part of our society and family. We must have specific provisions for them. The more we do, it is insufficient because they are part of our own family. So, like the family members, we should care them. They need more of our empathy than our sympathy. For that, we have to be extra careful. Recently, the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disability released the draft of the National Policy for Persons with Disability. Right. Government is preparing a new draft policy on for the persons with disability. Fine. The need why this policy was needed was because we have already a policy in that domain. What is the need of the new policy? So the necessity for a new policy was felt because of multiple factors such as India's signing of the United Nations Convention on Right of Persons with Disability. We have signed it. Okay, enactment of a law, new disability legislation, Right of Persons with Disability Act 2016, which increased the number of disability from 7 conditions to 21 conditions. Earlier, so we count 7 conditions for disability. Right now, they have been increased to 21. Being a party to the initial strategy for Asia and Pacific decades of personal disability 2013-2022, okay, which is known as the initial commitment, we should add those commitments in our own national policy. These commitments have changed the discourse around disability by shifting the focus from the individual to society. That means it's not those who are disabled who are to be uh, running from pillar to post to get the benefit. Rather, the society we should be proactive in providing the facilities to the persons with disability. Fine. The commitment have changed the discourse around disability by shifting the focus from individual to the society, from a medical model of disability to a social human rights model of disability. Fine. Because so disability were earlier considered as or disabled are earlier considered as a medical case. Some facility, medical facility and other aids have been provided to them to make their life comfortable. Okay. But right now this has been focused on not only as a medical issue but as a social human right model of disability because they are first of all human beings. Okay. So as human beings, so they should be their rights should be protected and they should get as much facility as possible from the society. It is no more a case of okay, only medical issue, but it is a case where the socio-economic status, socio-economic facility, okay, and human right concern are to added to this, so to be then a holistic developmental approach. So about the policy, it replaces the 2006 policy. Earlier, the policy was launched in 2006, and now a new policy will come into force. Okay. So because government has adopted the new policy, after adoption, this policy will come into force, replacing the earlier policy which was launched in 2006. Fine. The policy document highlights a detailed commitment to education, health, skill development and employment, sports and culture, social security, accessibility, and other institutional mechanisms. So, what the policy aim? The policy document highlights detailed commitment to not only providing them healthcare facility, but for their education. Apart from skill, the priority one, education, skill development, and employment. Okay, the participant in sports and culture, social security, accessibility, and other institutional mechanisms are to be created for the persons who are suffering from some sort of disability or the other. This is the new or revised version of the policy. Objective, it aims to showcase the government's commitment to the inclusion and empowerment of persons with disability by providing mechanisms that ensure their full participation in society. They should be participating in the society as full-fledged member of the society. They should participate. That is what is to be ensured, that they are no more treated as person with disability to look after or to be looked after by others. Rather, they should be dealt as person who have social prestige, who have their own dignity and they are living a dignified life in the society. Right. So life of dignity are to be ensured for them. They should be enjoying a life of dignity. Right. Then what is the and should participate fully in the society. Fine. Challenges faced by the persons. Political empowerment and the inclusion of the disabled are an issue that has not found traction in India's democratic discussion. See, so reservation is there in job and education, but not in political participation. So, because they are a substantial part of a society, so we should think of giving them some reservation in the political system. So, because so in case they join the political mainstream, so they become the stakeholders in that. They it will be better to realize their problems and they can bring better legislation. Then India does not have any policy commitment that it aimed at enhancing the political participation of the disabled people. So we don't have any political commitment to that. The exclusion of disabled people from the political space happens at all levels of the political process in the country and in different ways. So they are left over. They only participate in the voting. So, but very rarely they are allowed to contest the election or do some contribution in the policy making of the country. Fine. Political parties in India still do not find the disabled at the large electorate to specifically address their needs, because the political parties, when they put the candidate in the election, so hardly they find very few person from the disabled community, okay, standing in queue in the election booth. So because so the number of disabled who even come for voting is comparatively less. So because the number is less, so the political party put no attention, very less attention to their needs, because they are not a substantial vote bank like the caste, different caste or religion or community, the society. The disabled are not that numerically larger. So that is the main reason why the political parties, so they don't have any specific interest for the disabled, because they don't find the substantial number of persons with disability standing in queue or standing in the electoral booth. So in case they stand as a group in the booth or the number is larger, then the political party might have focus on them. So how to get their vote, because they numerically they are insignificant in diverse. Okay, very few, and those who are very rarely they came to the polling station. The political party, without getting any interest or political mileage out of them, so they rarely have any empathy for them. Okay, the lack of live aggregate data on the exact number of disabled people in the constituency only furthers their marginalization. But so how many disables and what types of disables are living in a parliamentary constituency? That data is not available to the persons who are contesting the election. So as that is not available, so no specific uh, developmental program is launched for them, neither during the campaigning. So the persons who contest the election of the constituency, they promise or they do any commitment for the persons in their constituency, so who are having different types of physical challenges or disability. Fine. Because the number is numerically less, so it is not possible for the political party to get a clear picture. Fine. So that is what is the challenge, and this challenge is further aggravated because they are not, the political parties are, they are not getting any substantial data regarding the types of total number of disables and the types of disability, so that compel them not to promise any specific developmental program for the persons with disability in a specific constituency, like the different caste or different community being promised different things during the election, because their number is numerically less, so no attention to that. Fine. Then inadequate representation play an imperative role in furthering the interest of the marginalized community, but disabled people are not represented enough at all three levels of governance, in the panchayat raj or in the state level or at the central level. So very few persons with disability are there at the national level. Okay, very few at the panchayat level or rural level or local level, and lesser than that in the state level, and too less or insignificant at the national level. Because of this region, so their point of view or their interest is very rarely promoted by the political parties and the stakeholders in decision making. Fine. Way forward, the goal of the policy document of all inclusiveness and empowerment can be achieved without political inclusion. Without political inclusion, it will be not possible to do any development for them. As you all know, political empowerment will lead to all other empowerment. Okay, in a democratic country like India, the first and the foremost requirement is the political empowerment. Political empowerment will lead to all other types of inclusiveness or empowerment in subsequent period. The policy can follow a four-pronged approach: building the capacity of disabled people's organization and empowering them, their member, through training in the electoral system, government structure, and basic organizational and advocacy skills. So if we really want them to be active participants, they should be given education and training. And through education and training, so they are to increase their participation in the political process. And through political participation, their other participation or other contribution to society will increase. Fine. Then comes the creation, amendment, or more legal and regulatory framework by lawmakers and election bodies to encourage the political participation of the disabled. Fine. So, if any law or any prevailing provisions is a hindrance on the larger participation of the disabled in the political process, they have to be amended, and so the path should be prepared for them to join the mainstream and get the benefit. Inclusion of civil society to conduct domestic election observations on voter education campaigning, and a framework for political parties to conduct a meaningful outreach to persons with disability when creating election campaign strategy and developing policy positions. This is a recommendations that if the political parties, when they conduct their campaigning, so they focus on the disabled, so it will be better for them. If they prepare different strategy for the disabled people. So among the electorate. So definitely, so faster development will be possible for the disables. Fine. Central and state government must work together with other stakeholders to make the right real. Because only government is not cannot be sufficient to provide them their for fulfill the requirements and bring them to the mainstream. The civil society, the other stakeholders are to be taken into consideration and confidence. So, a holistic development strategy can be adopted for the person with disability and their benefit can be provided to them in a more holistic manner. Fine. For instance, Chhattisgarh started the initiative of nominating at least one disabled person in each panchayat. So some states have started the process like Chhattisgarh, at least one disabled in Panchayat will be included. There is a provisions in the Chhattisgarh. Definitely that will give him political presentation, and that presentation will definitely add to the other benefit being provided to the person with disability from the lawmaking point of view. Fine. So because they are part of our society, they're part of our family, we cannot outright neglect them. In the present society, so with the science advent of science and technology, different tools are being invented for the disabled. Okay, and the contribution of disabled to the social, economic, political sphere are to increase because they are disabled in one way but talented in different ways. If the talent is identified and it is promoted, no doubt it will bring development to the society and the dependence on the society and the feeling of inferior complex will be phased out in due course of time. That is what is the major thing of discussion on this particular topic. Then next topic is the global minimum tax deal. So there is discussion going on to impose a global minimum tax on the multinational companies, okay, or fintech companies so who were operating globally. Recently, the G20 Ministerial Symposium on Tax and Development was held at Bali in Indonesia. You know, G20 is an association of 19 countries, both developed and developing, as well as the European Union as the single member. Then association of the emerging countries, developed countries, the developing countries, along with the European Union as a single member. Fine. So, what are the suggestions? The Indian Finance Minister called on G20 country to ensure that developing nations do not face any uninterrupted consequences and earn meaningless revenue from the proposed global minimum tax deal. So there is a tax called the global minimum tax, so being approved by the developed countries. Fine. And developing countries are hopeful that there should be discrimination in getting their share from the global minimum tax regime because these developing countries are the hotbed of market economy right now because of the developed countries they focus on the market of these developing countries to sell their products. So the market of the developing country are in focus of the developed countries multinational companies, so who are focusing on the market because they know very well that these markets are virgin markets and have a big potentiality of growth, so they go on focusing on these markets and how to capitalize on expansion to this market is the major focus of the developed countries. So the concern of developing nations should also be addressed while formulating rules for the proposed two-pillar tax deal to ensure a fair and more inclusive tax system. Right. So the Indian Finance Minister called on the G20 inclusive framework to support the active participation of all members in the finalization of the technical aspect of the two-pillar solution. Right. So the two-pillar solution, okay, it is about reallocation of an additional share of profit to the market jurisdiction. Okay, the second is it consists of minimum tax and is subject to tax rules. Okay, so what is this concept? Let know. It is a global deal to ensure big company pay a minimum tax rate of 15% and make it harder for them to avoid taxation. They must pay 15%. Then negotiation by OECD, the two-pillar package, the outcome of negotiations quoted by the OECD for which for much of the last decade aims to ensure that Large multinational enterprises pay tax where they operate and earn profit, while adding much needed necessarily certainty and stability to the international tax system. So they should be taxed where they do the business, not at the country of origin. Fine. So because they are in a country of origin, but their major business is in a country where they operates than the country of their origin. So right now, as per this provision, they should be taxed where they do the business than where is their origin. It will be more appropriate and more economically viable if they are taxed at the country where they are doing business than the country of their origin. This is being discussed right now at the multilateral forum. Fine. So the global minimum tax rate would apply to overseas profit of multinational firms with 750 million euros. Okay, in sales globally. So look at the amount. So this is the amount of sales. Okay, and the profit they earn, and if they have to be taxed, definitely this tax will be of much help. Yes, I have the personal class services. 20 minutes. 130. Fine. So that is what is to be taken care of by the new tax system in force. Okay. How the deal will work? The global minimum tax rate would apply to overseas profit of multinational firms with 70 million euros in sales globally. So this is what such a big amount. The tax is imposed of 15%. The huge amount will be collected from them. Okay. The government would still set whatever local corporate tax rate they want, but if company pay less rates in the particular country, their home government would top up their taxes to 15% minimum, eliminating the advantage of shifting points. Because those companies have been attracted to many new destinations with the tax holidays, because they are invited by the new countries to start the business, and those new country allow them tax benefits. If those companies so are not paying enough taxes, paying less than 15% taxes in their area of operation, their country of origin should tax them up to 15%, so to eliminate the advantage of shifting the profits. The second track of the overhaul would allow countries where revenue are earned to tax 25% of the largest multinationals, so-called excess profit, defined as profit in excess of the 10% revenue. So if their profit is more than 10% of the revenue, so they should be taxed at 25%. Fine. That is what the tax, and this is what is being discussed right now, because present period taxation is being given emphasis by most of the country, because business is growing. So business is to be charged the taxes, and both manufacturing and trading activity need to be paid tax, and government is focusing on how this tax will be collected from the multinational company operating in more than one particular destination. Then the second topic is about the I2U2, a new forum launched recently. Okay, the first ever I2U2 virtual summit was held, comprising India, Israel, I2, I2 India and Israel, and U2 UAE and USA. Fine. So you see, I2 stands for, so these two I's, one is India and one is Israel. India and Israel are the I2. Fine. And UAE and USA are the U2. So combinedly it is I2 and U2. A new inter governmental body created at the global scenario. The grouping focus on the food security crisis and clear energy during their meeting. So emphasis on food security, because with the growing population, so food security is a big challenge for the humanity right now. They also discuss innovative ways to ensure. So this is I2 and U2. They also discuss innovative ways to ensure long-term, more diversified food production and food delivery system that can better manage global food stocks. Because with rising population and rising consumerism, so there is a questions of food scarcity or the food shortage around the world, and the climate change, the human-induced climate change, is another big factor affecting the food productivity. Okay, we can substantiate why this year's fall in the productivity of wheat or wheat production in India is a big concern for the Indian government. Fine. The leaders welcome India's interest in joining the United States, UAE, and Israel, the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate Initiative. Because so India is one of the major agricultural country, but the Indian agriculture is the agriculture in India is on the traditional line. But with the change in climate, so Indian agriculture is going to be severely affected. Okay, climate change has its own impact on the agricultural productivity in the country. So to check this, so to save the country from this disaster, so what is to be done is a point of discussion at present. Fine. So how and what step they will take. So the impact of this climate change is minimal on the agricultural things. And in this domain, as you know, United States and Israel are much advanced in technology addition in agriculture. So India has been cooperating with them. Okay, so it was expected that India will cooperate and take their support in getting the latest technology updates from Israel and USA in the agricultural domain. Fine. Okay. So moving further, for India, the government unveiled initiative focus on food security and clean energy, including UAE will invest 20 billion program to develop a series of integrated food parks across India. So, because food processing is a prime requirement in India, because in India the food processing industry is at very nascent stage of development. It is a very slow level of development as far as food processing industry is concerned in India with such a vast market, so population, so India has a big prospect for the food processing industry. Food park will incorporate state-of-the-art climate-smart technology to reduce food wastage and spoilage, conserve fresh water, and employ renewable energy resources. Fine. So the food parks that we establish will focus on these things. The Indian government will provide appropriate land and facilitate farmers integration into the food park. Okay, because okay, so food park is a very innovative concept in India. It has very big prospect in India, but it is required is that so they should think of the future while launching this food park. It will consist of 300 megawatt of wind and solar power capacity completed by a battery energy storage system. Fine. So this is what then the I2U2 group. The I2U2 stands for India, Israel, UAE, and USA, and was referred to as the West Asian Quad. So Quad was established earlier with USA, Japan, Australia, and India. Okay, this is the West Asian Quad where that UAE and Israel along with India and USA. So largest democracy, the oldest democracy, and the two of the Asian major countries that like Israel and UAE are being added in this group. The group was first conceptualized in October 2021 in the meeting of the foreign ministers of the four countries in Israel. At the time, the grouping was called the International Forum for Economic Cooperation. Okay, and subsequently, when it was floated, it was named as the I2U2. Okay, And the third topic of discussion today is on the national judicial delivery system. In India, people have started putting more and more uh, trust on the judiciary. Why this is the situation? Because they have lost their faith from the executive, okay, and from the executive and the judiciary because of the high level of corruption at those institutions. So people have lost faith in the executive and the judiciary, executive and legislature, and the judiciary has emerged as their last resort. Okay, so people have started reposing more and more faith on the judiciary. Right. So recently, Chief Justice of India stated that the pendency of cases is a major issue and problem is intensifying. So the biggest challenge before Indian judiciary is the pending cases. So millions of cases are pending in the judiciary in India, starting from the lower judiciary to the apex Supreme Court of India, and in between come the high courts. More than 40% of the cases are decided after 3 years in India, while many other countries less than 1% of the cases decided after 3 years. Okay. If India does not act decisively and quickly, this percent will keep on increasing because the number of litigation is increasing day by day, and if the process is not made proactive, this will increase in future and will aggravate the situation. Okay, the increase in corruption and crime is direct fallout of the sluggish justice delivery system. The corruption and the crime are also increasing because the criminals are not fearing about the justice, because so they can delay the justice to a considerable period, and instant justice might have created a sense of fear in the mind of the persons who have committed the crime. But because justice is delayed, and this time petition give the facility to a culprit to delay the process as long as he wants by using the best brain from the legal fraternity. So and she so that is what justice is prolonged, and prolonged justice is not creating a setting an example, okay, where people will have fear that in case we commit any crime, justice system will give us the punishment, and instant punishment will be there, and will not be saved, will not be spared. Because justice is delayed, this creates a sense of fearlessness in the mind of the perpetrators of injustice or perpetrators of crimes and corruption. Okay, then this severely impact on poor and marginalized. For them, just the judicial process itself become a punishment, because they have to spend a lot their life saving in the judicial activity. The poor suffer because they cannot afford justice, and if the process is delayed, they have to pay for a long period the advocate charges and other things to carry on the justice, the trial process, which is very cumbersome, very difficult, very painful for the poor people in the country. Then data show that about 70% of prisoners in India are under trials and mostly poor citizens. So this is the most deplorable or pathetic situation, that 70% of the prisoners in India are under trial prisoners. So who have not been convicted. They have been behind the bar because the trial is going on, and most of them being poor, they are unable to get bail by spending the rupee and hiring the advocate. Right? Because there is no one to support them to get them out of the jail by the provisions of bail. So they are languishing in the jail as under trial prisoners, and there are so many instances where after long stay in the jail, so in the absence of due to lack of evidence, so they are released scot free. But by that time, so the prime period of their life is wasted inside the four walls of the prison. Okay, this is the biggest lacuna in a judicial system. Fine. Reasons for sluggish justice delivery system: absence of time limit. No time frame has been prescribed for the court for disposal of the cases. So in a particular case, there is no specific time frame. So within which period that justice will be delivered or the trial will be completed. It is not at all fixed anywhere in our country. That provided the lawyers, it is called in India the judiciary the lawyers paradise. Okay. There are instances when the court meets in the midnight to give justice, and if the person can afford it. And there is instances when this process is prolonged again and again without class with. Okay, so this is the main reason for this. Fine. So then rising backlogs. Niti Aayog in 2018 strategy paper New India at 75 had noted that at the current rate of disposal of the cases, it will take more than 324 years to clear the backlogs. Just look, 324 years to clear the backlogs in the Indian cases. 324 long years will be taken to clear all the backlogs, and within that period, the number of cases might have been multiplied. Okay, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only made it worse because due to the holiday in the court cannot sit due to the COVID restrictions, so the process has been further aggravated. Slow digital migration, almost the entire three-tier justice delivery system has been computerized and equipped with modern technology. However, the opposition of a section of the lawyers' fraternity has resulted in a slow pace of migration to the digital format. Although from starting from the district court, the high court, the Supreme Court, the process has been digitized by the government, but the advocates are not cooperating because they are not that savvy, or they feel that their interest when the case is prolonged is more than the instant justice delivery mechanism. Because the more the case is prolonged, the more benefit go to the advocates, because they charge more and more amount from the person for appearing on his behalf or her behalf in the court of law. If it is computerized and the process is made faster, so they are going to lose their income. So that is why they are opposing this. Then comes, so what recent improvement in the judicial system have been launched? Virtual court system. The regular court proceeding in our Indian courts in such unprecedented time are either being adjourned or have been carried out virtually by video conferencing. Right now, video conferencing facility has been introduced in the court, and cases are being tried through video conferencing from the judicial premises as well as from the jail premises. Fine. So video conferencing has come to the benefit or come to the help of the justice delivery system. Then e-court portals, it is a one-stop solution for all stakeholders like the litigants, advocates, government agency, police and common citizen. It has been launched. The portal designed in a way that uses multiple languages, which will be easy for all to understand. This portal is a consolidation of all the portals across the country. Fine, that is what. E-filing. E-filing, also known as electronic filing, is a facility that provides filing of the cases through an internet. This system of filing has multiple advantages, like it has proven to be effective in saving times, money, and travel for counselors and the litigants. Physical presence in the court is not mandatory. The case file gets digitally or digital automatically. It has impacted the environment positively by reducing the paper footprint. So because this is online, the cases are filed online, so there is no need of using that stamp paper, which are known as the judicial stamp paper. So filing a case in India needs the judicial stamp paper. So but e-filing need no judicial stamp paper, and this way the paperwork and the waste of paper is avoided by this. E-payment of court fee and the fines. Online payment can be made by the citizens using the portal. This will reduce the usage of stamps, checks, and cash. The e-payment portal is integrated with the state-specific vendor like the SBI, ePay, GRAS, eGrace, JEGrace, okay, HUMCOS, etc., which will facilitate payment on the online mode. National Judicial Data Grid. The statistics of the cases pending at national level, district level, state level, and individual court level are now made accessible to the general public through a national judicial data grid. Fine. And any individual can access this information by visiting the national judicial data grid portal. So he can know that how many cases are pending in which court, whether in the lower judiciary or in the high court or in the Supreme Court. Fine. National service and tracking of electronic process and step. This is a mechanism that consists of a centralized process, service tracking applications, and a mobile application for the BELOPS. This is used for a quick delivery of summons, notice, process, and the reduction of unreasonable days in process service. So this is what using this national service and tracking and electronics processes. So this tracking delivery of this summon Okay, notices etc. can be reduced to a considerable extent. This will definitely faster the judicial delivery system. Then E-Seva Kendras is set up as a one-stop center for accessing all facilities provided under the E-Court project. It has been set up in high courts and one in district court of each state on a trial basis. With these centers, the litigant can acquire information on case status and get judgment and orders passed by the court similar in similar cases. So not only the person will be able to know the status of his case or her case, but also he or she will be able to get the copy of the judgment similar cases around the country without taking the help of the advocates. He can know the merit and demerits of each case, and the because court order always act as a court of record. The higher judiciary, the High Court and Supreme Court, they act as court of record. If similar judgment has been published by the Supreme Court or High Court, so the person filing a case in subordinate court can very well know that what is going to be the outcome of each case, because in similar cases earlier, what was the judgment given by the higher courts, which will be binding on the judges delivering judgment to him. Okay, interoperable crime justice system. The interoperable crime justice system is an initiative of the e-committee to transfer data and information between the different pillars of the criminal justice system like court, police, jails, juvenile homes, and forensic science laboratory seamlessly from one platform to the another. Right. So all these have been launched. The only objective is to reduce the number of cases and to go for a faster justice delivery system, because it is well told that justice delay is justice denied. So denial of justice is not only affect the persons mentally but financially, physically, and emotionally. So this is where we want to change it by application of the technology. Okay, and in this domain, the application of information communication technology can have the potentiality to bring a big revolution in the justice delivery system in the country. And this will okay, so this will bring a much benefit to the common people. Fine. Okay. Then coming to the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. So according to the recent guidelines issued by the Women Child Development Ministry, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao will now be extended across the country. So this is a scheme launched by the central government. So to check the falling child sex ratio. But this scheme is, it is a flagship scheme of the government of India launched by the Prime Minister in 2015 in Haryana to arrest the declining child sex ratio. But the objective was to reduce the child sex ratio, which by 2011 census, the child sex ratio was very deplorable. So there is a big gap between the male and female child age group of 5. That led the government to launch the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. Okay, and because Haryana was the lowest in the sex ratio, okay, so that's why it was started from Haryana, right? And selected districts of different states are included in this scheme where the sex ratio was drastically low. Okay, so it is a convergent initiative of Ministry of Women Child Development, Health and Family Welfare, and the Human Resource Development. It is implemented by states with 100% central assistance. The Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme, there is no provisions of direct benefit transfer. Current coverage program operation 405 districts at present, but right now government, after success of this program, want to extend it to the entire country with all the districts coming under this, because to supplement this Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, there is Kanya Samriddhi Yojana launch. Okay, so Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. Okay, so what was added to it, the Kanya Samriddhi Yojana and some state government like Odisha, we have learned the Biju Kanya Ratna program. Fine. Okay. So it is implemented as 100% central assistance program. New comprehensive guidelines It will aim for zero budget advertising and encouraging greater spend on activity that have no ground impact for promoting sports among girls, self-defense camps, construction of girls' toilet, making available sanitary napkins, vending machines, and sanitary pads, especially in education institutions, awareness about the PC-PNDT Act. Okay, prenatal sex diagnostic test, which is issued to kill the female fetus in the mother's womb. Fine. So they are the new guidelines, comprehensive guidelines under the new act and new provisions government decided to extend it because improved tax. The ministry has now targeted improvement in the sex ratio at birth by 2 point every year, improvement in the percentage of institutional delivery at 95% or above, 1% increase in the first trimester ANC registration per year, 1% increase the enrollment at secondary education level and skilling of the girls and women per year to check dropout rate among girls at secondary and higher secondary level and raise awareness about self-menstrual hygienic management among the girls, providing sanitary napkins, providing these vending machines, creating awareness, using the persons for that. Okay, then what else can be done under the Khelo India? The scheme will also look at increasing girls' participation in the sports by identifying talents and linking them with appropriate authority under the Khelo India program. So they can be groomed in different sports. Then one-stop centers. So it also plans to strengthen the one-stop centers called SOKI to set up women help self-financing women help in facing violence, including domestic violence and trafficking, by adding 300 one-stop centers in district which either have a high rate of crimes among women or are geographically large, preferably in aspirational districts. So government has an aspirational district program which are backward. Government want to implement this scheme there. So this program can be better implemented. The one-step centers will be mainstay of the ministry at the district level for coordination and convergence with other initiative under the Nirbhaya Fund. Nirbhaya Fund has been created to provide self-defense training and other benefits to the victims, the girls who have been victims of violence, okay, in general, and sexual violence in particular. This fund was created for the Nirbhaya incident, which took place in Delhi. And the toll-free 24 women helpline 181 will be merged with the emergency response support system and other platforms such as 1098 Childlines and NALSA will also be connected to one uh, step solutions or one-step centers. The helpline can also be accessed through text or other forms of message for those unable to speak due to situational or physical challenges. Now, so Nari Adalat for providing women with an alternative grievance redressal mechanism to solve cases of petty nature at Gram Panchayat level, which will be implemented in a phased manner. Anti-trafficking units, halfway homes to be set up under the anti-trafficking units, where a group of victims ready for reintegration can live and work out of it. Then unparliamentary, so this is what is the provisions for the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, right? And this is now time for discussing the important questions that are discussed that are given for today. Right. So, comment question number one: which among the following nation is not a part of the I2U2? So, it is India, Israel, USA, and UAE. So, Australia is not there. So, answer is so in place of Australia, it might be UAE. So, Australia is not the thing. The right answer. Then the following statement regarding the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme: it was launched by Prime Minister 2015 in Haryana, which has the lowest child sex ratio. It is implemented at the state with 100% central assistance. So this, as discussed, both are correct. So answer is C. Then consider the following statement regarding the unparliamentary words. Exactly what constitutes all parliamentary language is generally left to the dishonorable Speaker of the House, because the representatives in the Parliament and Assembly, they use different words, and at times so they use some unparliamentary words which are not supposed to be used but are used. So this is what called the unparliamentary. Recently, ahead of the monsoon session, a row has erupted over 40-page compilation of words deemed unfit for use in Parliament. Okay, the last such book was published long back in 2009, not in 2020. So 1 and 2 are right, 3 is not right. Okay, because it published in 2009. Consider the following statement about monkeypox. Monkeypox. Okay, so monkeypox is a viral zoonotic disease. It occurs primarily in the tropical rainforest areas of Central and West Africa and occasionally exported to other regions. Monkeypox is caused by monkeypox virus, member of the Orthoproviridae genus in the family of Viridae. It is mostly transmitted to people from wild animals such as the rodents and the primates, but human-to-human transmission also occurs. All the three are correct in this context. We consider the following statement about the National Agricultural Market, (ENAM). National Agricultural Market is the pan-Indian electronic market for agricultural products. So it is a pan-India electronic trading portal which networks the existing APMC mandis to create a unified national market for agricultural commodities. The Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium so is a lead agency for the implementing ENAM. Both are correct statement. Fine. The answer will be C. Consider the following statement about the national resource accounts. The asset accounts capture details of the 34 major minerals, 58 minor minerals, and all 4 fossil fuels. The government accounting standard advisory body board publishes asset accounts for minerals and energy resources across 28 states and 1 union territory where they have been located. So both the answers are correct. The following statement about the Spanish flu. Influenza A N1H1N1 virus were responsible for the Spanish flu pandemic outbreak. Yes. Okay. The influenza A virus genome show a unique capability of gene reassortment that can be arranged the order in which the gene appears. So in this case, both are correct statement. Then coming to question number 8. The Indian Community Strategy 2013 to 2022 refers to which of the following statement? Empowering disabled persons. So the summit was held at Incheon, and so they have circulated the Incheon agenda. Okay, that for the persons with disability. Fine. So Veer and Daya, Madhya Pradesh, Batra, Bihar, Kumari, Tamil Nadu, Deepa, Karnataka. So only one pair is correct out of this. Consider the following statement: the tropical zone ozone hole is larger than the size of Antarctica and appears across all seasons. Fine. So the Antarctica ozone hole layer is the stratosphere and is visible only in the spring. So yes, it is only in the spring because of the movement of the wind to that side. So both are correct statement. So friends, today we discuss the topics and the MCQs. So we will continue the discussion every day. So participate in large number to get the benefit. Thank you.